Once upon a time, in a distant town, there lived an old woman with wicked skills and astonishing cunning in manipulation and deceit. This old woman competed with the devil himself in their deeds, spoiling many of his plans and tricks. The devil presented a choice to the old woman: either she leaves the town or surrenders it to him. The old woman replied, "I am not the one who should leave my town, and you also have no right to tell me whether to leave or stay. But if it's best for you to leave the town, then the decision is yours." The devil answered, saying, "I have an idea. I believe either you or I should be present, so let's stir up some problems and conflicts. Then we'll determine the winner between us by solving those problems and restoring things to normal." The old woman agreed to this solution and said to him, "Will you create the problems and I solve them, or will you create them and I solve them?" The devil replied, "You create the problems, and I will solve them." They agreed that the old woman would give the devil tasks to solve. The old woman went to a merchant who sold clothes and said to him, "Choose for me a unique and beautiful type of clothing because I have a son who loves a girl and asked me to buy her rare clothes at any cost." The merchant took out a luxurious and new piece of fabric and said to the old woman, "This fabric is newly made, and its design is beautiful." The old woman bought the fabric and paid for it, then went on her way. The old woman arrived at the merchant's house and knocked on the door. His wife opened the door and welcomed the old woman. The old woman greeted the wife and said to her, "My dear, I have a habit of praying the duha prayer at this time. Could you allow me to enter your house to perform this prayer before its time passes?" The wife welcomed her and let her in, then led her to the bedroom she shared with her husband. The old woman sat on their bed and the wife went to prepare the ablution water for the old woman and offered her coffee as a sign of respect. Meanwhile, the old woman lifted the pillow and hid the fabric underneath it. The old woman performed her prayer and drank the coffee, then took her leave, leaving the fabric under the pillow. When the husband returned home and it was time to sleep, he discovered that his pillow was higher than usual. He removed the pillow and found the fabric the old woman had bought, intended as a gift for a woman who admired her son. The husband was astonished and thought that his wife had betrayed him with the old woman's son. The husband remained silent, and in the morning, he told his wife, "Gather your belongings, I will take you to your family." The wife asked him the reason, but he didn't respond. She tried to uncover the truth, but the men refused to speak. The woman had no choice but to follow her husband's wishes to regain his love and trust and to uncover the secret and understand the reasons. The men took his wife and left her with her family without a word, deciding on divorce but taking more time to think about it. This was the first problem created by the old woman. As for the second problem, it involved the old woman interfering in the prince's life by causing him to be splashed with dyes and scents she poured on him as he passed by her house. The prince doubted his cleanliness and inquired about his condition. The old woman faced this problem by justifying that she had scolded her daughter several times for washing her hair at that time, but her daughter ignored her advice and continued to do as she pleased. The prince went on his way but couldn't forget the pleasant scent he had smelled. He wondered how the girl's scent could be so lovely if it was caused by her dirty hair. The prince decided to propose to the old woman's daughter, feeling drawn to this girl and desiring to marry her, even though he didn't really know her. The old woman gladly accepted this offer and agreed to the marriage without any doubts. The old woman goes to the devil and tells him about the two problems. The devil contemplates for a long time and then says that he cannot find a solution to either of them. So how can he solve them together? The old woman asks the devil to leave the country if she manages to solve the two problems. The devil agrees to the agreement and promises to fulfill it. On the second day, the old woman went to the husband's house carrying her prayer beads and prayer mat. She knocked on the door, and the husband opened it and welcomed her. She greeted him and said that she had come to the house a few days ago and had forgotten a bundle of clothes she bought for her son to give to his fiancée. She asked him to look for it and hand it over to her. When the husband heard this, a heavy burden that weighed on him was lifted. He quickly went to search for the bundle. He returned with the bundle and handed it to the old woman, thanking God for hearing this good news, which showed him that his wife was innocent of what he had suspected. Then he hurriedly went to his wife's family's house and knocked on the door. They opened it, and he entered and asked for his wife. It was fortunate for him that he did not rush to divorce her or express his suspicions and accusations towards her and her family. When he confronted his wife face to face, she reproached him harshly and told him that he had treated her inappropriately on that day, and she didn't understand the reason for his behavior. The husband apologized to his wife, confessed that he had behaved inappropriately, and expressed his regret. He also expressed his willingness to fulfill her requests as compensation for what he had done. The anger of the wife subsided, and she said that she did not ask for anything specific from him, but she left the matter to his taste and good judgment. After that, the husband decided to take his wife to his house and give her whatever she pleased. Things returned to normal in this problem. However, there is still a complicated problem, which is the problem of the prince and his non-existent wife. The wedding night was approaching, and all the preparations for the celebration were complete. At this time, the old woman began to think of a clever plan to solve this problem. She chose one plan from among her plans, which was to take a palm tree trunk and place it on her head. Then she went with it to a well in the middle of the town, close to the mosque. The people were praying, so she threw the trunk into the well, causing a loud noise that reached the ears of everyone, far and near. She said, "My daughter. My daughter. My daughter has fallen into the well." The imam started to lighten his prayer, and people gathered around the old woman asking her about the details of the incident, including the prince, the fiancé of the girl who had supposedly fallen, according to the old woman. The old woman told everyone about how her daughter had fallen, and she began to scream and lament her misfortune. The prince asked one of his trusted aides to go down the well and rescue the girl. But the old woman refused and said, "No, by God, no one except me should go down to my daughter. I cannot leave anyone to see her in this state." The prince replied to the old woman, saying, "You are weak, and I fear that you won't be able to do anything for her." The old woman responded, saying, "No matter what, no one else can go down to her in this condition except me." And then the prince agreed to her request to descend into the well to rescue her daughter. The prince provided the old woman with a wooden stick tied with ropes at its ends, and she sat on it and descended to the bottom of the well. In the well, there was a ghoul from the offspring of the jinn who had a malignant tumor in his throat, which obstructed his food and drink intake. He had not responded to any treatment, so his family left him in this cave to die. When the ghoul saw the old woman, and her private parts were exposed to him through the panels, he smiled and laughed. The devil couldn't control himself and burst into laughter from within his heart when he witnessed the strange scene unfolding before him. Every part of his body trembled from his intense laughter, and that malignant tumor that had been blocking his throat started to break and released all the substances that filled it. Suddenly, life returned to his body, and his family rejoiced greatly at his recovery. They asked him about the reason for his laughter and healing, and he replied that the old woman was down in the well, pointing at her. The jinn came to the old woman and told her that their son had been healed thanks to her, after fearing for his life. And now, they could fulfill any request she desired. The old woman responded by saying that her request was to resolve her problem with the prince of the country, which was to find her a bride who would enter at the appointed time. The healed jinn replied, saying, "Your request is immediately granted," and brought forth a beautiful girl like the moon. The people shouted joyfully at the old woman standing on the edge of the well, saying, "Good news! Good news! Your daughter has been delivered." The old woman rejoiced at their congratulations, untied the ropes, and first brought out the girl, and then she herself came out. The people crowded to congratulate the old woman on her daughter's safety, and she accepted these congratulations with a joyful face. When the prince came to congratulate her, she specifically said to him, "My daughter, praise be to God, has not suffered any harm, and she is in good health. We are committed to setting a wedding date." The prince rejoiced at this unexpected news, as he thought that the wedding night had been delayed due to the unfortunate incident. Then the old woman went to the devil and asked him, "What do you think?" The devil confessed to the old woman's cleverness and intelligence, and that she had surpassed his expectations with her skills. Then the devil departed from that country, leaving her to live in it and roam without a partner or competitor. And thus, the tale ended.